Welcome to Americana Archives. Travel back in time with us as we go throughout America's historic newspapers to find the lost and forgotten history of America. Today's story comes from the great state of Washington. It's reported in the Seattle Post-Intelligencer of January 1st, 1893. Today's headline is the New Year. It says, "The optimist will welcome the new year because the past, as he reads it, makes him hopeful of the future, while the pessimist will look forward to the new year with gloomy foreboding because the past is so unsatisfactory that he expects not better but worse things than the present. The pessimist is as old as Homer, who makes one of his heroes hurl a rock at his adversary that not 10 strong men could heave in these degenerate days. The pessimist in politics and religion is generally a mugwump who refers us back to the first days of the Republic for Roman virtue in the state and profound piety in the church. The pessimist is not strong in matters of history, or he would know that less than a century ago, swearing in the drawing room and in the best society was no uncommon thing. Governor Strong of Massachusetts relates that he heard John Hancock make a remark at the dinner table that caused the ladies to rise and leave the room amid a roar of laughter from the men. Women were then publicly whipped on the back. There were stocks, cropping, and branding. These things were common. Almshouses were unknown. Insane persons were placed in fetters and confined in iron cages. Chancellor Livingston said to John Jay, "Jay, what a set of rascals there were in the old Congress." And Governor Morris agreed with Livingston. In the first decade of the century, members of different parties were hardly on speaking terms with each other. Their wives and daughters had no social intercourse. A leading businessman of Massachusetts, when advertising a house to be let or sold, added, "No Democrats need apply." As late as 1806, Harvard College was permitted by the General Court to raise money by lotteries. The license of journalism was frightful compared with what it is at present. Public manners were so coarse less than 60 years ago that so fine a lady as the widow of DeWitt Clinton publicly insulted President Martin Van Buren at a Saratoga social assembly. Drunkenness was common at presidential receptions in Washington City. And during the night sessions 20 years ago, United States senators were not seldom inebriated. If we subject our religious thought and action to the same sharp review, comparison and contrast that we have our social and political manners, we shall find that as a whole, the American people are purer in life and nobler in laws than we ever were before in our history. There never was so much general benevolence and humanity, never so much toleration, never so little bigotry and superstition in our land as there is today. There never was so much scientific knowledge applied to the multiplication of the necessities, luxuries, and comforts of life. There is far less intemperance, public and private, than there ever was before in the history of the nation, in spite of the fact that prohibition was never so universally discredited and distrusted. Great public charities are common where once they were exceptional, and great bequests of money to educational enterprises, libraries, hospitals, etc. are made by an increasing number of rich men every year. Never before in the history of the world have so many millionaires given assent by their example and action to the view that superfluous wealth ought to be distributed largely for the benefit of the community in which it was won, instead of being perpetuated and tied up in families, as is the practice under the law in Great Britain. Never before in the history of this country has there been so wide a diffusion of sound knowledge and pure literature. Never was there so much evidence of a better and purer taste in music, art, and drama. Steam and electricity have been so variously applied throughout our country that in 1,000 shapes, all times are our cup, all life our grapes. Thank you for joining us today. Remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.